This will be a quick video, but I just have to comment on something. Um, Joe Rogan is being constantly attacked by the woke mob, and Spotify are under huge pressure to essentially ditch their cash cow. And it started because he had some people on his podcast, virologists and vaccine experts and that kind of stuff, that had a view about COVID and vaccines and this kind of stuff that was contrary to the mainstream narrative, and the general consensus among epidemiologists and virologists. I don't agree with what these men were saying. I tend to agree with the mainstream view on this, but that doesn't mean he can't speak to people with a different opinion. Of course, how do we separate the wheat from the chaff in our society? It's not by shutting people up. That's what free speech is. You put your ideas out there, and the good ones will rise to the top. The bad ones will sink off and wither away and die. You don't promulgate your ideas by shutting people up or driving it underground. When you drive something underground, it thrives. It's like that great quote from the ancient philosopher Tyrion Lannister: if you cut out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar, you're just afraid of what he might say. So shutting someone down is the wrong tactic. Also, when you do it, the more conspiratorial minded among us will say, "Oh, there's something going on here. They want to shut him up." It opens a whole tin of worms that otherwise need not be opened. But a compilation of clips going back 12 years of Joe saying the N word surfaced. I think he said it 20 times in 12 years. A lot of those times he was simply discussing the power of the word. It was a etymological conversation, if you like, around the power of language, and the do's and don'ts. Usually from a comedian's perspective, what you can say on stage, and what you can't. It looks terrible. The compilation looks terrible. He's just saying this word ad nauseum, and it's not a word I like. It's not a word I would ever use. But there are people attacking him, saying there is no situation in which a white guy should say this word. A few things I don't understand. If it's so offensive to black people, why do they use it constantly? And if you want to really give a word power, actual power, tell people they can't say it. It's the Voldemort effect. If it's completely anathema to utter this racial pejorative, I don't like the word, all that aside, when you say that it just cannot be said in any circumstance, you give the word an immense amount of power. There could be a philosophical seminar on just that, the power of language, where you're discussing that word. Then you could use the word, of course. If my son is singing a rap song from Ice Cube and he says the N-word, is he some racist that needs to be cancelled? Of course not. Context matters. People are saying that context doesn't matter in relation to white people saying that word. I don't know why it's just that word. I mean, what about Jews and the word kike? I think if you were to go through history and pick a group that has suffered more than any other, I reckon it's the Jews. Yeah. But the word kike has not been allowed acquire that kind of visceral kind of response from people. It hasn't acquired that anathema that when somebody utters that word, you don't get the same response at all. And I wonder why. As an Irishman, there's many words that are anti-Irish words. The English call us paddies, but that's not the same. It's kind of like more of a, yes, it's kind of insulting to white people, but it's more of a playful, yeah, all right, Paddy, you all right, mate? Whatever. It's more of a jovial kind of. But the word taig is used as a pejorative for an Irish Catholic. I've been called a taig in my life. It's an offensive word to me. And it's very offensive to Irish Catholics, especially up the north. Why hasn't that word been allowed acquire the same kind of power, essentially, as the N-word? I don't know. But another thing now, I was looking at Twitter a second ago, and there is footage of his stand-up comedy from 2006. So the woke archaeologists are literally going back, 16 years into his past to dig up what they can for a reason, for what they think is a very good reason. They want him cancelled. And this really is a very, very important moment in what people might call the culture wars. If they win this particular contretemps, I think we have lost for the foreseeable future. I really do. This is far more consequential than anyone thinks. It's not that Rogan won't survive. If he's ditched by Spotify, he will have another platform tomorrow. He's the biggest podcaster in the world by miles. He's maybe the most influential human being on planet Earth right now, which is crazy. He's a comedian and a fight commentator, and he didn't ask for any of this, but that's the way it is. And as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. But I think he is a very, very reasonable human being. I think he does his best. And why he has become so popular is because he is willing to talk to everybody. Okay, he doesn't bring neo-Nazis on or, Antifa on. You don't need to have every opinion on. But the people that are well within the Overton window on both sides, he is willing to have conversations with everyone. Right-wingers, left-wingers, people in the political centre. This is why he is so popular. And he is not an extremist in any way, shape or form. He's a centrist, centre-left-ish maybe. And he's just a very well-intentioned person. That's the feeling I got from Rogan when I started watching his podcast many years ago now. And that is still the feeling that I get from him. That he's intellectually fascinated. And he's not an intellectual in the classic sense, but he is certainly quite an intelligent person and very, very curious about things, and will really not have solid opinions on things unless he's done his homework. And he has some fascinating guests. He likes to air out a range of different views on a topic, and that is a good thing. But this video of him, it's doing an impression of a handicapped person or something. This is in his stand-up comedy act. I haven't seen the clip. I mean, it's comedy. If it didn't work, what were his intentions there? Is he just doing it to demean handicapped people or disabled people across the world, or was his intention to be funny and maybe it misfired? Well, if the latter is true, well then I don't know why they're bringing attention to it 16 years ago. Well, I do know, of course I know. It's to shut him down and, get him off Spotify. And as I said, he will have another platform, but it will be a huge victory for these people that if they think they can put enough pressure on institutions, organizations, different companies, and they will in the end get their way, then that is a very, very dangerous precedent moving forward. I thought it was great when Netflix didn't cancel Dave Chappelle over his controversial show. I was sure they were going to bow to the mob. There was a concerted effort on the part of progressives to get him taken off Netflix. Netflix, they held, and they wouldn't do it. And these people had to go with their tail between their legs and realize that, okay, just because we shout loud doesn't mean we're going to get our way all the time. I thought it was great. But if Spotify finally do bow to this pressure, which is a lot of pressure, I believe it would be very bad for Spotify, by the way, but it would be very, very bad moving forward in these so-called culture wars. These people have to know that they can't scream and shout their way they can't scream and shout their way forward. They got to argue their way forward with coherent arguments, not this constant appeal to emotion, you're denying my existence nonsense. So, I hope Spotify hold fast. Joe Rogan, keep doing what you do, man. You're an absolute legend. I love you. My son watches you now as well. So I really hope this doesn't go the way that many think it will. But I'm a little more optimistic. I think that it will pass, in a week, maybe a fortnight from now. They might dig up a few more things, but I think Joe will be absolutely fine. He has enough support there, and sane people can see Joe Rogan for what he is, which is a truly well-intentioned and decent human being.